All right, today's topic is graphing inequalities in two variables. So what we're doing here is we're going to sketch graphs of the inequalities on an actual graph, okay, and do some shading, okay. But first, we need a refresher of how to graph lines on an actual graph. So we're going to use our slope-intercept formula of y equals mx plus b, right? So remember, m is our slope and b is our y-intercept, okay? So my slope tells me, right, when I do my graph and I graph it, all right, my slope tells me whether I go up or down, okay, and then how many to the right, okay? So I'll show you that in a second, all right? And then my y-intercept just tells me where on the y-axis I'm going to be, right? So where it crosses, where the line crosses the y-axis, okay? So let's say, this is just an example, let's say I have this, so I have y equals x plus 3, okay? So if I would draw a graph, right, and I'll look at first thing I want to look at is my y-intercept, okay? Y-intercept is here, this is my y is at 3, right? So on the y, and this is y, x, right, on the y, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, I'm going to put a point here on the y-axis at 3, okay? So that's where I want to start with the y-intercept. Now, for the slope, in this case, my slope, if your x is by itself, always like this, it's always 1 over 1, okay? 1 over 1, okay? So here, it's positive, right? Top number tells me how much up or down. Bottom number tells me how much to the right. Remember, this is our rise over run, right? So I have 1 over 1, right? Which means from my point, okay, from my point here, on my y, I'm going to count up 1, okay, so I have an extra line, right? I'm going to count up 1, and then my bottom one tells me to the right one. So my point is going to be here, and then I draw my line, connect the dots, okay? So start here, remember, this is my y-intercept, so I start here on the y at 3, on the y, right? If this is 0, right, 1, 2, 3, okay? If x is by itself, it's always 1 over 1. All right, so my 1 tells me to go up 1, and that one tells me to go over 1. That's my point. Draw my line. Okay. Another example. Say I have y equals 3x minus 2. Okay. Alright, so now, once again, I'm going to start with my y-intercept, which is a negative 2. It's in that negative in front, so negative 2. So I start from my origin, right? I'm going to count down, 1, 2, and that's my y-intercept, right, is negative 2. My slope is 3, okay, which means I'm going to count, right, it's positive, so I go up. So from here, at my point, I count up 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then because it's by itself, it's always over 1. Like that, okay? So remember, start with the y-intercept, and then rise over run. 3, go up 3 to the right. If it's by itself like that, remember it's always over 1. So up 3 to the right 1, okay? One more example before I move on. Okay, so negative 2/3 x plus 5. Alright, so once again, I start with my y. My y-intercept is 5. It's positive 5. So for my origin, I count up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from my point, okay? Now my slope is negative 2 over 3. So here, it's negative, so I'm going down, okay? So top number tells me top or up or down. If it's negative, I go down. So I go down 2, right? So 1, 2, and then I go to the right 3. It's always to the right, okay? Always to the right, so right 3. So from here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 from my other point. Draw my line, and there we go. Okay? So, y-intercept is at 5. I count up 5 from the middle. I have a negative slope, so it's going to go down. So I count down 2, and then to the right 3. All right? Now, we're going to change it up a little bit. Okay? So, same rules, but I'm going to add inequalities in there, okay? So let me give you this. Y is less than x plus 4, okay? Let's give you that. So if I give you this, and I graph it, right? Alright. So, first step, y-intercept is at 4, right? So I'm still going to count at 4 my y. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my point. I have x by itself, so I know my slope is 1 over 1, right? So my slope, I count up 1 to the right 1. Okay, there we go. Now, here's the key. Look at my inequality. It's a less than symbol with no line, okay? If there's no line, I'm going to draw, when I do my line, it's going to be a dotted line. Okay, dotted line. Okay, so if there's no line underneath there, dotted line. Okay. Now, I need to shade. Okay, so I need to pick a point on the graph. Okay, to plug into my equation here. The easiest point is 0, 0. Okay, so 0, 0. All right. So if I plug that point into x and y, okay, so 0 here, so 0 less than 0 plus 4. Okay, so I just took my x and y, I replaced them with zeros. Okay, so if I do 0 and then less than, and then 0 plus 4 is 4, right? Okay, is this a true statement? Is 0 less than 4? Okay, yes, it is. So when I shade, right, my 0, 0 is here, right? That's my 0, 0, my origin. Okay? If it's yes, you shade towards the origin. So all this, right, all that is going to be shaded in. Because all these answers here can be plugged in to work. Okay? So that's how that one works there. All right? Don't worry, we'll do another one. Let's do y is greater than equal to negative 3x plus 4. Okay, so here's my equation. All right. So first thing, I gotta graph the line, right? Y-intercept is at positive 4. So I count here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 4. My marker's dying here. Now my slope is negative 3. So remember, it's negative, so we're going to count down 3. So from here, I go down 3. So I go 1, 2, 3. And then, because it's by itself, it's always to the right 1. Alright? Now, look at my symbol. it has a line underneath it. If there's a line underneath it, I have a solid line. Okay, solid. Right, better line than that, but you get what I mean. Solid line. So, just for the record, right, if it's that or that, it's a dotted line, okay? If it's that or that, solid line. Okay, write that down. No line, dashed, line, solid, okay? Now the shade. So once again, I'm going to pick my point, 0, 0, and plug it in. So if I do that, I have 0, 0, plus 4, right? So it's a 0. Negative 3 times 0 is a 0, and 0, 0, 4. Okay. Now answer the question. Is 0 greater than or equal to 4? No, it's not. No. So, when I shade away from 0, 0. Remember, 0, 0 is my point I picked here. I shade away from it. If it's no, I go away. Away from 0, 0, okay? So, once you plug in 0, 0 and solve, if it's no, away from it, okay? Alright. I'm going to leave that up here so you guys can see it. Let's do y less than or equal to 3/5 x minus 5. Alright, so, once again, there's my point. Now I'm going to change marker. This one here. Perfect. Alright. Use green. Alright. So, negative 5 is my y. So I start here, go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Now my slope is 3/5, okay? Top number tells me up or down. Bottom number tells me to the right. So it's positive. From here, I'm going to go up 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then this one tells me to the right 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my point. Alright, look at the symbol. Line underneath, solid line. So when I draw my line here, solid line. And now I'll plug 0, 0 into my x and y. So, I go 0, 3/5, 0, minus 5. Basically, you can see how this cancels out. 0 less than, the minus here, still in front of the 5. So that minus comes down with the 5, right? So ask yourself, is 0 less than or equal to negative 5? No, it's not. So, it's no. I shade away from 0, 0. Okay? Away from my point. Okay? Alright, let's do one more. One more. Y greater than 2x minus 5. Alright, so there's my graph. Alright, graph. So, once again, y-intercept, once again, is negative 5. Great. So I go down negative 5. Start from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my y. 2x. So remember, 2 is by itself. So is my slope. So it's positive, so I count up 2. So 1, 2. And because by itself, it's always over to the right 1. Okay? Look at this inequality. It's greater than, no line, dashed. So I have a dashed line. So dashed line, okay? Leave your dashes there. All right, dashed line. All right. Now we'll plug in 0, 0 in. So 0, and then Once again, that minus 5 comes down. So is 0 greater than negative 5? Yes, it is. So it's yes. So now I shade towards my graph there. Okay? And that's graphing inequalities in two variables.